And welcome to the This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. I am here with John Keogh, who is executive producer of Manny J Media. Hey, John.
What's up, Tom? How
We
you
took a
doing?
week off. We took a week off.
We
Shame
did.
on us. It's my fault. 100% my fault. You weren't even dodging me this time. It was my fault.
I wasn't dodging you. I've never dodged you. That's disinformation right there. Disinformation.
We are going to start with the city manager's recent comments on the Supreme Court decision that basically enables criminalizing being outside. I'm getting a little feedback from your speakers, Mr. John, as
And I'm
per
turning
our
it.
usual.
I turned it down.
What was the name of the case? Grants Pass was the case.
Grants Pass.
Before the Supreme Court ruled that, yep, even if you have no shelter beds, people can't sleep outside. You can arrest them, fine them, send them into a lifetime of debt for court fees they can't pay, and ensure that they will never get off the street. You're welcome to do that. That's what the Supreme Court decided. Your thoughts?
So I saw the city manager's statement, and so what I want to do is I want to drill into what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said that fining and arresting somebody for sleeping outside is not cruel and unusual punishment. It was an Eighth Amendment challenge, and so that was the specific thing that they decided. So then the city manager, our city manager, responded with a letter or a statement that he released. And in his letter, he said that there is not going to be a new rule where we're going to start arresting people for being homeless. So, in an interesting thought that I was thinking about this, is that we do use bulldozers to move those homeless people, right? That is a standard practice here in the city of Worcester, where the Quality of Life Task Force, which is mostly, I shouldn't say mostly, it has police officers on staff, and they go into an area, they tell people to move out, they give them some kind of warning, usually, not all the time, and then they give them a timeline, and then they come through with a bulldozer and they bulldoze the campsites. That is a standard practice. There's video of this. There's body camera footage of this. This is a normal thing that they do. And so now the thought that I would have is to go back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says a fine and arresting someone for that is not cruel and unusual punishment. And I would like to kind of go down the logic path. Is a bulldozer for a campsite cruel and unusual punishment? Just think about that. Is that normally how you deal with a campsite? A bulldozer. And I would argue, if I was with Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, who wrote that decision, that using a bulldozer to clean people's living places out would be cruel, at least, if not unusual. And the question then kind of came to my mind: is this like a normal practice? Do a lot of cities around the country use this practice? Because City Manager Batista has said on several occasions that we're not the only city that's dealing with the unhoused issue, and that this is like a common practice. So I looked it up. I decided to go and do some research, fact-based journalism, thanks to my inspiration in life, Tom Marino. And it turns out it is very uncommon that people use bulldozers around the country. There are places that do it, but it is not a common practice. So it's not like, of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, that 351 of them use bulldozers to clean out camping sites. And another thing that kind of came up in this argument is that this is like happening all over the place. That is true, but it's also not true, right? So it's not true that Holden has the same level of unhoused people as Worcester. That is not true, right? That is an unmitigated false statement. What happens is that they say that all the people that are in Worcester are from those towns, and that those towns are not doing their part. You hear that all the time. You hear the city council say, well, the towns aren't doing their part. The towns aren't helping out. It's the towns, it's the towns, it's the towns, right? So there's this idea that Worcester County is contributing somehow this massive influx of people. And Tom, I've been working on this long-term project to talk to people who are unhoused and find out where they're from, right? So yes, there are people who come to Worcester in the summertime that are not from here. But there's a huge population, according to the city manager's office, of about 700 people who stay here during the winter. Okay? All right. So let's add another element to that cruel and unusual argument for anybody out there that would like to talk about this. Do you think it's cruel and unusual for people who are sleeping outside in the middle of the winter, which is a common occurrence here in the city of Worcester, to then go after them with a bulldozer like what happened at Walmart 2 years ago? Okay, so it was a cold part of the year, and they went after them with a bulldozer in the cold. Does that make it cruel? What makes something cruel to for the Supreme Court to say that's cruel and we're going to throw that out? We know that you can't electrocute somebody, right? Oh no, wait, you can do that. We know we can't. Can we use a firing squad? Like, what is cruel and unusual?
You can actually do that.
Apparently, it's only when you use a drug cocktail that could potentially cause seizures. So, like, it has to be like radical death for us to call it cruel. But I started to think from just this is me, my thinking, just John. I think that it would be cruel for me to use a bulldozer on someone's bed because that's what it is. It's someone's bed. They're sleeping, and we're going to take a bulldozer and go over it. And then we're going to throw away in trash bags people's property. Yeah, I understand we want things to be clean and taken care of, but this is the process. So the city manager made the statement as like a public response to the Supreme Court's decision. Hey, we're not going to do that. Nothing's going to change. And what he's saying is not going to change is that they're going to continue to bulldoze people, which is the standard practice. I find that to be cruel and unusual. That's my thought on Grant's pass and the city manager's statement.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to interrupt you because it's a point well taken. However, in a strictly legal sense, I think you're rather than cruel and unusual, I think you're missing the punishment part, which that isn't actually a punishment for a crime, right? And that is, I think, what the Eighth Amendment is actually referring to. But your point is well taken. Yeah, it seems like, basically he was trying to reassure people that, the policy and how the city deals with the homeless population is not going to change. And so it'll continue to be bad is the gist of it. Not as bad as it could be,
Right.
thankfully, but, certainly not as good as it could be either.
And that's really the point. So a big component of being an American is that we kind of depend on these, rules and regulations. And realistically, when the Supreme Court makes a decision up until this point, right, we just kind of say, okay, that's what it is. That's the law now. And even though this Supreme Court has started to do this overturning of long-term precedent, which, by the way, is not a new thing. It just happens to be new that it happens this much in a very short period of time, right? So there's been many courts that have had to overturn things, right? Of course, the most famous being the Dred Scott decision, which basically said that a person was not a full person, and then and at the time the Supreme Court said that was right, and then it had to be overturned later on when someone who was normal said, "Oh, that's not right." Right? So, that was never right, and it shouldn't have ever been there, but it was there, and so there was a Supreme Court that came and had to overturn that precedent. The Supreme Court had to get involved when a black man and a white woman wanted to get married, and a white man and a black woman wanted to get married. We had to get the Supreme Court involved in there because they said that wasn't allowed. Things like that is where the Supreme Court had to come in and overturn years and years and decades of precedent. This new push towards overturning precedent is not new individually, but it is new in this grand sense of things. And so there's this upheaval in the law that has to be dealt with. And a lot of what needs to happen now is we have to have these processes go for months and years and all these times to deal with each individual thing. And like what you said is true, Tom. There really is no legal way unless the legal opinions change. Right? So they can't, like what he's saying, that's standard practice. We're just going to continue our standard practice. There's really no way to now challenge that because the Supreme Court has said this other thing. But that's the problem. That's about an interpretation. It's not about saying what the law actually says. That's where it comes down to. The logic of the law. Cruel and unusual was put in place because people did really messed up stuff in war and in taking over countries that needed to be resolved. And now we don't have that foundation, but we're calling it back to the foundation. We're saying, no, this is from the founders, right? The founders, respect the founders, respect the founders, respect the founders. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Did they really want to use a bulldozer on people's campsites? I just
I mean,
take
I
the
think
law
that's.
all the way
I
to the
mean,
end.
look, it's
Yeah.
what is actually. Yeah, you're right that the pace at which they are just, wholly ignoring precedent, is certainly unprecedented. It is by far the most activist court that this country's ever had. But that said,
very fast.
what's important to distinguish though is, activist courts of the past, they render decisions to give more people more rights, where this court is basically the first that has made it a practice of taking people's rights away.
And yeah, and I would say I would agree with that. Even if you don't agree with the rights that the people have or don't have, the issue is that is really where the fundamental understanding of the law needs to be taught to people and explained to them to really get them to understand what's taking place. But even if you don't agree, right, and you say, well, I think it is good that what they're doing, okay, they're contradicting themselves in the law, in the precedents that they're overturning. The grants pass overturning of not overturning of a municipal law that was put in place, a specific law that was passed. By the way, there was no vote. It was an imposed ordinance by the mayor of that town. There was no vote. There was no legislation. There was nothing. It was an administrative decision. Okay. On the other hand, you have the Chevron decision, which has now been overturned with the impetus that agencies shouldn't be making administrative decisions without the court's influence. So on the one hand, we're going to get rid of admin kind of laws. And on the other hand, we're going to support one. So they're making an active contradiction in their legal opinions. And I'm convinced, by the way, if I was sitting in a room with them and I explained it in that way, they wouldn't understand what I said, which is insanity that a sitting Supreme Court justice can't understand my logic and pick it apart. They should be able to come back at me and say, no, this, and this decision, that decision. They went through 7 billion years of law school, so they should all understand. That was a big exaggeration. But a lot of time in law school, they understand reading the law, but they don't see how these are literally polar opposite decisions. In one case, you're saying that an administrative placed law shouldn't be the law. And in another case, you're saying, nah, but it should. It makes no sense. Oh, Maria just dropped us a comment. Okay, so the money. They're talking about the money that the states are. She's talking about Massachusetts. There's a lot of people being housed that are migrants. Well, that's true, Maria. Not wrong that there's a lot of folks that are being housed through that. But this decision doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the money that they're spending. This decision has to do with they want to literally go after a specific segment of people who are sleeping outside. In this specific case, there's an actual person that was the person that was fined and arrested. It's not a broad category. It's like a specific situation. And that person got a lawyer and said, hey, that's not fair. You shouldn't fine me in this situation. You're putting me further in debt. You can look up the person's name in the grant. Tom's on his way right now. You can see him. He's on his supercomputer fast. I'm going to find the person's name. But so they want the power of punishment, which is what Tom was talking about earlier. Not necessarily the overall problem of having too many people and not enough space. That's not the issue here. That's a different issue that has to be dealt with in a different category. What we're talking about is that they want to punish people for that. So if in the case of a migrant family, let's say a migrant family got kicked out of a hotel and they had to live outside, they would be also subject to this punishment. They could get thrown into jail for this based on this decision, which wasn't passed by any legislature. Similar to what our city has gone through, where the city manager, who's the executive, can make administrative decisions and the city council just kind of rubber stamps them. In the case of this police department policy, it was not passed by any legislature. This is a decision that has been come to from an executive, both the city manager, his prior boss, and the police department have made a decision that this is how we're going to deal with this. There was no law passed. So there really is no law to even argue with. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
You talking about here?
Yeah, here in Worcester, the city council didn't pass a rule saying you can bulldoze campsites. That was never passed in Worcester.
No,
right?
but I mean, look, I mean, in a strict sense, that there's laws being broken. But that is how the law is enforced is,
yes,
right. That's the
so then
rub, right?
There's this argument about this idea of like, what about this, what about that? Yeah, but this, but then that. So my thought when I speak with the police, and we just interviewed the chief of police, something that I have said to him many times, and I'll continue to say them. Why doesn't the police department focus its resources on people who have higher positions of authority that are messing up? Right? They're breaking the law. Why doesn't, for example, there's a lawyer here in the city of Worcester who's doing the wrong thing. He's embezzling funds, or he's stealing or lying or cheating. Traditional white collar kind of crime, right? That's the nickname for it, versus blue collar crime. Why do we focus our resources on blue collar crime versus this other kind of crime? Even though those people should be held to a higher standard, right? Those folks it's a pick about what you use your police department for, right? You choose
Right.
that. It's a choice. And in this case, they're choosing, we're going to arrest the unhoused. And now in Worcester, they're not saying they're going to arrest them, but several arrests have come out of when a bulldozer has gone to a campsite and the person freaks out because their stuff got wrecked. And then the police say, well, you were acting crazy. Of course you were acting crazy because
your stuff just got wrecked.
How would right now I can feel myself getting a little frustrated, right? If you bulldoze my stuff, I'm going to get pissed off. And yeah, maybe I'll take a swing at a cop. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but that kind of emotional level that you end up responding with is a normal human response, but it shouldn't be an arrestable offense, but it is in this context, or at least, as Tom just said, it was enforced that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, it always comes back to the same question, which is, what do you want these people to do? Evaporate? Like, I mean, you're going to be somewhere. When you exist, if you're alive, you have to exist somewhere. It is like, right. We've broken this all the way down to is or to be. Like, to be alive is to be somewhere. So, I don't know, there's still no answer to the question, what do you want these people to do besides evaporate?
And there's no real push to solve the problem live, right? There are buildings in the city of Worcester right now, office buildings, that are completely empty. That is a fact, right? I'm not saying there's a lot. I'm not saying there's enough to handle the whole situation. I'm not saying that. But there are empty buildings in the city. There's also buildings in the city that are partially occupied, like the Telegram and Gazette building. There's many empty floors in that building right now, right? Used to be full, but they have long since fallen down, and they're falling behind this week in Worcester, right? Thanks to Tom and I's incredible chemistry on screen. But I'm serious about this. When you think about those buildings, they have empty spaces that could be used for housing. If you truly had the political will, you're like, you know what? We don't want anybody on the streets. We're going to get everybody off the streets. You could do it, but it would take real difficult conversations about how resources and personnel are allocated. That's the problem. Yeah, Maria.
Well, yeah, I mean, but those buildings are not owned by the city, right? And they're owned by somebody else. And
so but the city's job. So this is really goes, and I'm weaving this. This is a plane that I'm trying to land, right? I have made the argument about the cable operator contract that the city manager and the city council should be arguing against that company because they're abusive, right? That their job is from the bully pulpit, which is this concept of being able to have a public platform. They've been platformed by the people of Worcester who voted for them, gave them a platform. They then platformed a person with a contract. Okay, so you have this elected group and an unelected group. They can use their voice because when they speak, everybody listens. It's not like you and I, Tom. We're hustling right now, right? We're trying our best to get everything that we're doing going, right? What Manny does, he's out there in the street in the daytime, and he's going from place to place to place, to thing to thing to thing, because he's trying to build his platform to have people listen to his voice because he sees there's a need in the community, right? We're trying to serve a need. They already have the platform. To their credit, they won the election, but they're not willing to then shame the people who have unused resources into using those resources for the public good, or convincing them. It doesn't have to be shaming, right? It could just be convincing them. Why not say to them, hey, you have this building that's been empty for 3.5 years. How about we put people in there? We'll pay you. we'll give you some money.
That's the rub, though, is they don't want to pay.
Then that's the problem, right? So becomes a moral argument then. What kind of world do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a world where people are left outside subject to being bulldozed? Or do we want to live in a world where we care about people? I think that, and I'm not saying to tell the person who's the single family owner that they have to house someone in their attic. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying the person who owns the single triple decker, this family, the anonymous family business. I'm not saying to put it in their hands. I'm saying that this government, who we've given our resources to through taxes and through votes, they should do that. That's what I want them to do. That I want them to focus on that. Fix that. Don't fix how I think. Don't fix how Tom talks. Focus on that. I'm not that I'm saying that, like, for example, sometimes there's people in power who don't want to hear you, right? You've experienced this. You try to reach out to them. You're trying to give them a legitimate opportunity to answer your questions. They don't like your tone or some nonsense. They're like, well, how can you ask me that question, Tom? And you're like, I'm a reporter. I'm doing my job. And they're like, well, we don't like that, so we're not going to work with you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people that are actually being affected by it. Why not think about them as the primary recipient of the things that we've given to them already? Why is it gotta go? Why do we have to spread it out? I don't get it. Some people have more than others. We know that. That's the way of the world. So wouldn't you want it to go to the people with the least? It just doesn't make any logical sense. And the response isn't, yeah, John, okay, you're making a good point, but I just disagree. No, the response is something completely different. They say that my argument is not the right argument. They shift the goalposts, and they say, well, we don't have the resources, and we don't want to ask business and property owners to change the business and property. It doesn't matter how they got their property, by the way. It doesn't matter if anything weird or shady happened that they ended up with their property. Now they're a property owner, and so now we have to take their property rights serious. Their property rights are really serious. And I agree. But I'm not talking about the single family owner. I'm talking about the giant glass building that's just sitting empty. And they're still running the AC, and they're still running the heat over there. I can see the lights on, but there's no one in there. So why not put people there? That's what doesn't make sense to me. Logically, it doesn't make sense. If I had the building, which I don't, and I don't think I'm ever going to be a millionaire or a zillionaire, but if I ever was, and you can hold me to this, future people and future Tom Marino, I'm saying it on This Week in Worcester's podcast on July 14th, 2024. If I ever get a giant office building, I'll put people in there. I promise you that. I will put people in there. I'm running on that. They're right there. There's my public statement.
Yeah. So, the bottom line is it's always interesting. Like the tone that comes out of the city manager's office is sometimes interesting. Like, they thought that this was a good idea to talk about how, nothing's going to change. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Like, basically, we're not going to make it worse. We're going to keep doing the bad.
Right. And they're saying,
and they want people to be happy about that. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right. We're going to continue to
Leanne
have
said,
basically
"Did
no
you say
policy.
office building?" Yes, giant office building, Leanne. I want a 100-story glass office building, like the one above Tom's head over there somewhere in the.
So that's that.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, so let's touch on Spectrum, your favorite topic, Spectrum.
Oh yeah.
Charter Spectrum Communications.
So once again, they did
New price
the
increase,
thing.
folks.
They did a price increase, and the person who so two things. One, I was given this information by a person who works for Spectrum, who I gained a good relationship with while I was the head of the Cable Television Advisory Committee. And so they said, hey, they gave me a heads up. There's going to be a price increase after July 1st. And I said, oh, okay. And this is the question I asked this person. I said, who has, by the way, appeared in public hearings in the city of Worcester. So that'll help you narrow it down. Did they inform the city manager? And the person from Spectrum said, nope, they don't care. They don't care. And they don't care.
You know what?
And so then it came out last week that they increased the price of cable, not internet, just cable, by $3. Okay. They also increased the price of internet, which there is no contract governing whether or not they can increase prices. Okay. They can increase their price. They can do whatever they want. They have the right to say, move it up $10. But part of the contract that they signed with the city of Worcester is that they're supposed to at least inform the city manager 30 days before the price increase is informed to the people who have cable bills. So that gives kind of a 60-day window to the people of Worcester to make a determination: do I want to keep this or not, or do I want to pay the extra $3? In this case, they waited and they released the information after the first of the month when the cable bills have already been mailed out. So the person didn't even get the chance to decide, do I want to continue this service, that they increased the price. They already are being billed for the price as if they chose to have that higher price. That kind of practice to me is bad business. That's how you lose customers. You treat customers badly. Let me give you an example, Tom. Let's say you go to Applebee's. I love Applebee's. Everybody who knows me knows I love Applebee's. Let's say you went to Applebee's, Tom, and you ordered a classic cheeseburger. Right, Tom? I know you like yourself a classic cheeseburger, bro. And the classic cheeseburger costs what? $8. And then you ate the classic cheeseburger, and then they gave you the bill, and the bill was $11. And the lady said, hey, the price went up while you were eating a burger. That's what the cable company is doing, and they don't care. They think it's a joke, and they are convinced that the city manager is going to sign that contract and never look back. They believe already. And the guy that I helped hire, the lawyer, Jerry, they think that Jerry is they basically think Jerry's working for them. He's going to get the language that they need in place to make sure that they have the contract that they always wanted. Spectrum has been negotiating with the city manager in public this entire time by basically slapping him in the face and saying, hey, I don't care what you do. I'm going to increase the price, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. And I want to point out that last year, right before the election, the city manager and the mayor wrote a joint letter to Spectrum about a 5% increase. That same exact process has happened 4 separate times since then, but there's no election, and I haven't seen a letter from the mayor or from the city manager in the months since. There's been accusations towards me, for sure, but they have not now gone after Spectrum, which tells you they're willing to go after me, but they're not willing to go after Spectrum. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they don't care, because they know that he doesn't.
They don't. Exactly. You're 100% right. He is negotiating with them too, even though he says he's not, by showing them that he doesn't care what we think as people. He does not care what the voters think, because and for the people that are listening, he doesn't think that you care enough for this to be an issue. He doesn't think that. And he actually has the proof, because the voters have not voted these kind of things out. This is kind of how business has been done in the city of Worcester for decades. And so the city manager, who was trained by 2 former city managers in the same way of thinking, he just thinks the same thing. He thinks he's going to keep that job as long as he wants, and no one's ever going to do anything about it. That's what he believes until he gets another job, maybe at the state level doing housing or something, or maybe he gets a nice cushy job at Clark. I don't know. I'm just being honest. He does not think the voters are going to make a push, because the voters who vote, they don't really care about Spectrum taking money out of their pockets enough to tell Mo Bergman, "Hey, vote against us," or to tell not to just go one side or another, or to tell that, right? In that they don't care. They just don't care because they don't think you're going to vote them out. Leanne asked if I'm going to put people to work in the glass building. Maybe, I don't know. We'll give them all jobs. If I had the money, we'll give them all jobs.
Yeah, corporate fealty is all I can really say.
Corporations matter more than people. That's a fact. In our country, corporations matter more than people to the people in power.
Moving on. I want to talk about state level races real quick. Of course, there's a primary coming up in September 3rd. Just for some reference, there are 40 races this year for the Massachusetts Senate, and there are 27 of them that are uncontested. A few of them have primaries. I think it's 1, 2, 3 have primaries of those 27, but have in 26 of them no Republican running, and one of them, Bruce Tarr, who's the minorities, the Republican, the leader of the Republicans at the state level, at the state house, or the state Senate rather. He also does not have an opponent from the Democrats. So there's 27 races where there's only people from one party in it.
Right.
So that's good.
And that's not good. That's really bad. And the one person from the minority party has a race, right? So here's the thing to this.
No, he does. He does not have a race. He does not.
Oh, he doesn't have a race. So he's getting into. Yeah. Maria is saying, John, she's trying to get a hold of him. So this is part of the problem, right? In Worcester, legitimately, the city council races have been contested the last 3 cycles pretty heavily. All right, so we've had this, and one of our listeners right now, Maria, she ran for a very heavily contested District 4, a district that has been traditionally underserved for many years here in the city of Worcester, and so we had a really broad race in District 4. Which was pretty cool, right? To see that many people. I live in District 4 in Worcester, and it was exciting to see all the different people try out for it. And we had a very big spectrum as far as political positioning, right? I think some people got pigeonholed. I think Maria was not treated fairly in that race by some people, but that's a whole nother show that we have to go down that road. But realistically, that's what you want. You want people with different ideas to compete for the position. That's what you want. At the state level, which is even, another level up of government, but where a lot of the money comes from that this city ends up with, right? So Michael Moore, Robin Kennedy, they get a lot of money, they bring it back. Those races are unopposed. There's nobody contesting them. And 2 things. One, most people are afraid to step out. In fact, Maria says I should run. I think about that. I think about that sometimes, and I just don't know what. I don't know if I can contribute more inside or if I can contribute more outside. I'm not 100% sure, but it is tempting to run. But I'm going to say this: on the city council floor, I don't know if I could hold my tongue, right? And I would have to, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And I would call people to their faces, and I would probably get, I'd probably get fined by the mayor. I get Mayor Petty gaveling me down if he was mayor, so I just don't know if that's the right thing for me. But maybe I don't know. But the thing is that the other level, there's no one even trying, and the reason no one's trying is we've had one party rule in Massachusetts since 1959. Let's go with the fact-based journalism. There has been a Democratic supermajority in the Massachusetts House and Senate since 1959. That's insanity, right? There's just no, and I'm not saying that Republicans are good or bad, but there needs to be an alternative thought process. And even the Republican governors have one. Let's be realistic. Bill Weld, Charlie Baker, Mitt Romney, they're not conservative Republicans at all. They're not. They're just, I hate to say it, but Republicans in name only, right? They call them rhinos for a reason, but they were fiscally conservative, but you never had anybody who had other parts of conservatism. And realistically, both Charlie Baker and Mitt Romney were registered Democrats at points in their careers. So it is what it is. It just those are things that you have to deal with when you're dealing with Massachusetts politics. Democratic dominated state, legacy Democrats, Kennedys, this and that. And so you just have to accept that. Robin Kennedy, by the way, not related to the Kennedy clan. She just happens to have that last name. Okay. We need people to step up and run. You got to step up and run. Tom should run. Leanne, you should run. So we need different people with different ideas, but the system is slanted against us, right? Because how do you win the elections in the state, Tom?
Well, so I mean, I take a little exception to some of this. There's been one party, but there's look, Mariano is a social. Maybe some social stuff he's on the left. I mean, the decade, some of these Democrats that we consider them on the left at all is hilarious. Like, we don't have a left in this country. We don't. There's no actual left in this country. Like, people think Bernie Sanders is like some wacko. Like, he's center left in most of Europe. Like,
I'm with you on the positioning, but the problem is that they've all run within the same party structure. So there's never even been like a competitive like fundraising organization. And listen, I'm not saying the ideas are wrong or right. I'm saying that there should be competition, and there's no competition. It's all centralized in one place. I'll give you a great example, Tom. In this state right now, there is an agency. It's called the Massachusetts Department of Corrections. Okay, the Massachusetts Department of Corrections has been considered by the governor of our state to be a rogue agency. That means that they have had laws passed to change them that they refuse to participate in. Okay, who is the number one organization in this state for fundraising for the Act Blue platform? Do you know the answer to this question? It's MCOFU, which is the union of the corrections officers. So the same people who criticize the Department of Corrections for targeting Black and brown young men, having sentence structures that are horrible and racist and openly easily accessible, inhuman conditions, just corruption, all over the place. They are Democratic fundraisers. That is a fact in this state. Now, in other states, it's not the same, I'm willing to concede that, Tom. But in this state, it is, and that's a problem when you have only one party. And so there is no real difference between, like you said, there is no left, there is no right, there is no center. It's all kind of like a mishmash of the same thing. And so nothing ever really gets done. It's just the same problem continuing for years and years and years, right? And so it's fun. It's kind of funny. It doesn't really change anything. Recently, the Commissioner of Corrections said that, hey, we're doing really good because we have the lowest amount of people percentage-wise in 40 years. That's a true statement. But if you look at the total number of people locked up, that hasn't really changed in a long time. And what you do see, though, is a massive spike in people on probation and parole. These are all things that you can look up. There's a high number of people. So they're taking more people out of state prison, and they're putting them on probation and parole. So I'm going to ask you, Tom, do you think it's better that we have more people on probation and parole than we have in state prison?
Yeah. I mean, depending on who the people are.
I don't think that. So here's the thing: is that's still supervision, and it's still costing resources to say we think this person can be good in society. We're good. They're good to be out, but we need to supervise them. That doesn't make any sense. Probation factually doesn't make any sense. And so that, to me, but that's just a different form of control. So you can move the numbers. Oh, they don't like it that we have too many people locked up. Here's what we're going to do. Instead of locking them up, we're just going to put them on probation. But you still suffer from the same things that you suffer from in jail. It's difficult to access employment. It's difficult to access housing. It makes it more likely that you're going to suffer from addiction. It makes it more likely that you're going to suffer from being unhoused. Those are all statistical facts. It's still jail. Maria just said it at the same time. it is still jail. You're just locked up in your own apartment, or you're locked up at your mom's house, or you're locked up in a bus station, or you're locked up at the Salvation Army. It's all the same thing. You're not really getting the opportunity to break through and become free again and being able to pursue economic and maybe political and maybe other kinds of opportunities. And that to me is something that Democrats, at least in this state, they're okay with. They're okay with it because they don't do anything about it. And to me, that's a problem. That's what I mean. And I'm not saying that I want a whole I want a I want a MAGA Massachusetts, right? Like we want to get like a whole slew of ultra conservative right. That I don't know that that's the right thing either, because if you go look at Texas, we look at Alabama, where you have one party rule and you have had for many, many, many decades. You have the very same structures that I'm complaining about in Massachusetts existing in Alabama: corruption, open graft, nepotism, blah, 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 blah. It's all there because there's only one group of people that are in power. And within those structures, I guarantee you'll find some people that you would consider center right versus, what do you say Bernie is, center left?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But look, the Democratic Party is the center right party.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
No, it is.
This idea,
It is. It's not.
This idea that they're on the left. Look, I think I said this at the end of last week. There are two corporations that wholly control the party systems, or the party system we have, the two-party system. They agree on one thing. If they agree on nothing, they agree on one thing, and that is they should be the only two parties. And they've worked for years, for decades now, to make sure that that's the case. So if you are, I don't know, if you are either, if you don't line up with one of those parties, you still run with the party closer to your ideology, because otherwise it's nearly impossible to get elected.
True, nearly impossible. So is actually a local example. So Lisa Mayer, who had run against Robin Kennedy for state senate, she eventually then ran for the Republican state committee, right? And she was told, this is something she said on her own platform. She was told that they weren't going to support her because she ran as an independent. And so in their mind, you didn't run as a Republican, so we're not going to support it. This is a committee, by the way, that has like 10 people elected in the whole state. And so it's like, you're going to say to someone who wants to be a part of your structure, because you didn't run.
Yeah, and like a quarter of the people, in the whole party in Massachusetts are on the committee, because
they're all exactly. Jeff Deal, who a guy who I still don't understand how he became the person who ran for governor. Manny and I interviewed him when we were at What's Up Worcester. This dude was a perpetual loser. He never won anything. He was the state rep from Taunton until they redistricted, and as soon as they redistricted, he lost, and then he ran for a series of positions and lost. Yet they wanted to give him the party structure there. It's like, dude, why would you want someone who loses to be the Wouldn't you want
I mean, he's a Republican. What do you want from him? He's a Republican. You're looking at Massachusetts. Like, what do you expect from him?
He was Republican-ish. He was Republican.
Well, yeah, he's a kook, but yeah.
And it was funny because he tried to pivot to Trump. He was a Charlie Baker guy, and like kind of a center, medium.
He's a chameleon is what he is. Let's be honest. The guy's a chameleon.
And then
he's tried to be 14 different people to try and get elected.
Instead of picking one thing and sticking with one thing, I actually think that part of what's happening in today's political thing is there is actually an opportunity for people to run on single issues now, which hasn't really existed for a long time. Like you said, they pick a platform, they pick one person, they say, this group is close to me, so I'm gonna be on that group because they're the closest to my ideas. But if you go back to pre the Great Depression, there was a period of time when you could run on one issue. And I think local elections, like here in Worcester, someone could win on a single issue if they just hammered it away, but they would need independent financing, because you can't use the other two party platform things, because they're not going to support you unless you support their planks. And so then now you're stuck. You're stuck either getting into bed with the devil or trying to make it on your own. And the only way that really happens is if you have independent wealth. If someone wants to hand me $1 million to run for city council, I will do it right now, and I'll win, because I have $1 million. And I already have friends in the media, like Tom Marino of This Week in Worcester. You know what I mean? And you better report hard things on me, Tom.
And just I was organizing here the list from for the House at the state level.
Yeah,
Looks like there is 100 and I hope I didn't screw this up because this is an extraordinary number. If I did, 161, right? That's right in the House, right?
yeah, that's right.
And my quick, I just did a quick tally here. There's like 136 without people from
Yeah.
more than one party.
How many primaries in there? No primaries?
A bunch,
A bunch.
on both sides.
So I would like to see in those primaries who the Speaker of the House is supporting, because you're probably going to see the one they want, and that's really the situation, right? And then in the districts you're looking at, I mean, Massachusetts is extraordinarily blue, and so if you go into those districts, there's no chance realistically that a Republican could win in most of those districts. I think there's like, there might be like 5 towns in the whole state that even lean predominantly to the red, and even there's been Republicans who have lost those seats, right? The 2 cycles ago, Pittsfield, right? So that was a traditionally Republican seat. It was lost to a Democrat. So I mean, there really isn't. They have an amazing organizational structure. Let me give them credit here. They have the town committees. They have the selectmen, the city councilors. They have all the fundraisers. They have identified leadership. They have the training platforms to get people that are young. In our city, Jack Murray. Jack Murray's the head of the Young Democrats in 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 Worcester, which is this traditional platform trajectory towards becoming an elected official in the city of Worcester. Although Jack doesn't necessarily agree with the things that his uncle Tim says, there is that kind of platforming that exists for him because of his family, right? So, and it's not a criticism of Jack; it's just factual statements, right? But he's decided, I'm going to go this way. He also has Worcester Political Dialogue, a page that you and I and Maria are often on arguing on, not with each other but with other people, right? But so that's kind of there's really not that many places to go unless you go into one party or the other, right? Um, uh, so it's really difficult to pick even a forum, let alone a party thing, right?
Yeah,
And
I
there's
mean,
nobody.
yeah, it's Maria also said something too about the speaker. Yeah, I mean, look, Mariano's it was handed to him. He'll hand it to somebody else, and it will go on because nothing's going to change. What was it? What was it? 2 cycles ago, there was a big fight over the rules. Act on Mass. That's the group. I thought I was going to forget who it was. Act on Mass kind of organizes a big push about rules in the House. They wanted the bills a little earlier. They wanted they wanted term limits. I feel there was like 4 things they wanted. Of course, none of them passed. But at one point, the voting began on something. There was the roll call voting, and they put up the speaker's vote as like I forget which side of it he was on. It was a yes or a no, right? Obviously, but they put up the speaker's vote as a no. And when he was like, "No, I'm not voting no," and then I'm voting yes. When they flipped his vote, like 80 votes flipped with him.
Yeah,
because they are just voting with him. That's how many votes he was controlling on the floor.
But
it's unbelievable.
He picks committee chairmanships. He picks ranking members, which gets salary bumps. He has control, and if you don't go with what he says, you can't get access into it, right?
Yeah. Now let me lay this out. So, in the House, your base salary is $10K below state median.
Right.
So imagine if you live in like Springfield or here, and you got to go to Boston 4 days a week. You basically have to live there, right? Especially if you're from Springfield, you can be in some parts of the state and be 3 hours away, right? So you're making 10K below median, living in the most, working in the most expensive place in the state. And the only way you make more money is to get appointed to committees. And who does the appointing to committees? There's one person, the Speaker of the House.
Person.
The Speaker of the House also controls what office you get, which staffers you get.
Yep.
It's God mode gone crazy.
And our state auditor, Diana, she was a state rep and a state senator who got, first as a state rep, she got her staff stripped from her because she didn't agree with them. Committee chairman taken away. And she ended up running for state Senate. The Senate president, who was buddies with the chairman of the House, continued the practice. And then she ran for state auditor and won. she's one of the few kind of breath of fresh air politicians that you kind of see that she's willing to challenge people on these things. But even there, the funding for the state auditor's office, when she got elected the state auditor, they reduced the funding for the state auditor's
Yep.
office.
They're
It's
just
just
openly. I mean,
obvious. It's obvious.
it is just open. I mean, and really the word is, I mean, I guess it's not corruption because I don't know if it's necessarily, their own money-making scheme. But I mean, it is, it's just openly like, I am king of the universe.
And it's not ethical. There's no ethical
Oh,
points
no,
about it, right?
no. I mean,
So
the Speaker of the House is by far the most powerful person in the legislature. Hands down, by far.
Yeah, I would argue that the Speaker of the House in Massachusetts is more powerful than the governor, in my personal opinion, because the governor can do the pocket veto. There's a couple line item things, but generally speaking, if you look back at the budget stuff, the speaker just says, "Hey, we're just going to override your veto," and they go right back 75% vote, and they just override it. So the governor is actually beholden to the Speaker of the House in our state. It's insanity. So the legislature acts as both the legislator and the executive in many ways.
Yeah, but again, though, I mean that's what I mean is like, just because people are in a party, look, if you're telling me that like Erica Erdehoven and Mariano are in the same ballpark ideologically, you're just wrong. Like,
oh no, so there's no doubt about that, Tom. They just all house themselves under the same house, right? Like in the Harry Potter universe, they're all in Slytherin together, right? And they like it because they've all stayed maintained in power. Ray's a perfect example. He ended up being the only prominent opinion newspaper writer from the second largest city in New England because of his role as the mayor, and he got other stuff too, right? You're talking about Ray Mariano, right? So
no, I'm talking about the Speaker of the House.
No, oh, okay. I was thinking about former mayor Mariano, but
No,
he's conservative, but he's also a Democrat because they accept that. That's what I'm saying. The Democrats allow those people to register and run as Democrats because they just want to keep the Democratic Party in power, and so they're okay with it. And so there is ideological opposites. Look at our own city council. Everybody on our city council is a registered Democrat. Every single one. Who's name a Republican?
Donna.
Donna's not a Republican.
She was Republican Party chair.
She's the Republican Party chair. Where?
She was.
Donna Colorio.
Yeah. What's her name?
Let's do live on air fact checking.
What's her name that's on school committee? I can't think of her name. Kathy Roy was Republican Party chair, and she says that Donna Colorio was the one that inspired her to run for office. Two most inspiring people I can think of.
So Kathy Roy's on the school committee, right? So let's just look at it. Hold on, we're doing this live, but that's okay. That's what we're doing right now.
Anyway, you can look. Oh, I spelled it wrong. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That's usually your thing, but maybe I'm taking over.
Taking over? What are we talking about next?
Not knowing stuff.
I'm going for it right now. I'm trying to get it for you right now as we speak. I can't find it.
We shouldn't be doing this live.
We shouldn't be doing. All right, we'll do
it. Ron Mariano's one of the worst people alive. Anyway, I'm opening stuff, but I don't even want to now. Moving on.
Ballotpedia, Leanne. Ballotpedia. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, there you go. I didn't even think of that. I don't even really want to talk about this because I have nothing nice to say about it. But I feel like would be kind of derelict in our duty if we did not bring up what appears to be the attempted assassination of the former president the other day.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say, really.
So I mean,
I don't know, what should be your response to they missed? I don't know.
So I mean, to me,
kid is probably dumb.
Yeah, I repudiate violence just in general. I'm an anti-gun guy. Um, and I'm an anti-gun guy from a person who also happens to be an ardent Christian man. And I don't believe that we should be carrying guns. I don't believe that um, that it's needed or necessary in a world where you don't want violence. I think that what happened is terrible. I have no idea why it's happening. My only issue with what is happening since is people openly rooting for someone to die. Um, so we have seen that President Trump has had some really terrible things that he said, and I can see that. I've heard things that he said where he's rooted for people to get hurt or to die. And we have had prominent national politicians and people all over our city and all over the world saying, "Hey, that's bad and it's wrong," and we deplatform the guy, right? And rightfully so. You shouldn't be causing people to die or saying someone should get hurt or get sick or any of that stuff. It's terrible and it shouldn't happen. Okay. Yesterday, people that I saw who were rooting for him to be taken off of Twitter and rooting for him to be, taken off of Facebook were also rooting for him to die. And that is not right. And so that's all I'm saying. I just stand against any rhetoric that says we want people to be hurt. Um, and that's it. That's my only thing. What I will say this too, to make it balanced, President Trump has done this same kind of rhetoric, and he has contributed to the national environment of political violence. There's no doubt about that. He has ratcheted up this idea. We're gonna fight and we're gonna kill and we're gonna take it back and punch in this kind of angry tone. He's done that, so he can't step away from it. This is a result, and he has a part of that sickness. He's contributed to it. I want to start to say that it's a national disease. This idea of hatred and just like we want to run people down, and it's just horrible. And this is the only thing that can happen. There's only two possible paths after this. One, we figure out a way to heal as a nation and figure out how to love each other. One. And the second one is that it ends really, really badly. And I don't want it to be that one. I want peace, and I want people to live freely, and I want people to not get hurt. And I've seen too many things in my life. I've had people die in my arms. It's not a good thing. It's never a good thing to look at death in your face. It just shouldn't happen. And so I just hope that people can stop for a second. Stop saying things on Facebook. Stop it. Just go home and think about it, and vote for whoever you want to vote for. Vote for this person or that person. I don't care. But please treat people better, treat each other better, Someone put DonnaClorio.com. Is that is that how we find out?
Yeah, I don't know.
We can't click it in the link.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think that was wholly. It wasn't very productive to attempt to kill a guy. But I will just say that what's more important to me than one person perishing is women dying because they don't have access to appropriate reproductive care. And I quote, "You have to kill their families. That's what you have to do." End quote. So I mean, for me to feel sorry for this guy, feel bad, feel any empathy for him whatsoever is a pretty big sell for me. His family and whatever doesn't deserve to have to live through something like that. But he's alive and well, so they don't have to. But for me to feel anything for this man, this is the stretch.
Okay, so real quick, just a live fact check myself. According to Donna's website, she's a registered independent, and but she also has herself pictured with four of the most prominent Republicans in Massachusetts.
Yeah, so there you go.
On her webpage. So
yeah, two people died actually. I think the second person that was hurt died as well in that shooting incident yesterday. So yeah, I mean that's obviously, there were just people standing there. Again, you have to kill their families. That's what you have to do. So,
It's terrible.
that's a direct quote from that person.
Yeah.
So,
That's terrible. And so that I want to say that saying that you want to kill and hurt and harm people is just that's not how that it doesn't. Here's the thing: people get agitated pretty easy, right? When you give them that kind of language, and I think I think that there's a national consensus that the angrier and more anti someone you are, the more likely it is you are to attract money, and the more likely it is you are to attract attention. And so there's a lot of evidence to say they might be right. But I will say this: I still believe that someone can run for office on a platform of love. I swear. But no one does it. No one does it. There's no one who does that. And that's what I'm saying. So all the evidence is it's the other way. Saying that you're against something is the thing that wins. But why not people running and there are positive campaigners. I'm not saying that no one has ever run a positive campaign because they do, but the vast majority are just against something, not for something. And I'm tired of it. I want people who are for something. Show me those people. Tell me what you're for. Care about people, relationship building, and let me say this to use a local example. In the race between Joe Petty and Robin Kennedy, right? I like both of those people. I really do. I like them both personally. I consider them both to be my friends. Okay. And I saw there was two strategies. And the strategy with Joe was the traditional I'm the mayor and I win the mayor's race strategy. But I was at King Street at the Village with Manny when we were doing the backpack drive. Okay, the when we were working with What's Up Worcester, we were a participant in this big backpack drive. 300 families. We did a really good job. There were thousands of people at the Village. Manny worked his butt off to get that done. The mayor didn't come to that event because he went to this thing with Joyner Lucas. Robin Kennedy came to that event. She shook everybody's hand, and then I walked her to the sidewalk and was talking to her on the sidewalk. We were just talking about an interview she was going to do with Manny on the election eve. And I watched Robin walk up King Street, okay, in her padded shoulders and in her flats, and she started knocking on doors in King Street after she was at that event. I saw that with my own eyes, and and it was low turnout election and all that, but she won District 4 going away over Joe. She walked up King Street. I saw her do that. That's what wins elections. And so there's a way to do it that way, right? And I think it's possible. So that's all I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be I hate you. It doesn't have to be like that at all, man. It doesn't.
No, but I mean, there is one and probably one thing only, in my view, that you can learn from the former president, and that is say it like you mean it, say it clearly, and say it how people talk. Now, I don't believe I don't believe the man has core values. I think he says what he thinks is the most expeditious thing to say at the current moment. But if you actually mean it and say it like you mean it, and to say it how people say it, that's the lesson to learn. I think is trying to be the smartest person, trying to act like you deserve to be anointed the smartest person in the room, is not what actually attracts voters. Believe it or not.
No, people don't like that. They don't like it when you talk down to them at all. People want to be met where they are. That is what you're saying, Tom. People want to be met at their level. They want to understand.
I'm not. Yeah, but that's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is talk like a person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Talk like a regular person. Yep. 100%.
And I mean that's what he does, and I mean, the downside is people think that he's telling the truth, which he basically never is. But
I mean, listen, I didn't watch that speech. In fact, you were the one who told me that it happened, and then I went back and watched the fullness of his speech. There's a section in that speech where he speaks about McDonald's for like 2 minutes. I mean, it's like, and that's like a normal thing that he does. And so, he does do this thing. I believe him when he says that he eats Big Macs. I kind of believe him because he does.
I mean, look at him.
So people connect with that, dude. It is, and it's hard to. How do you get through to that? I don't know. I don't think that the way that he's pushed for it is what we need to be a country that's unified. And by the way, there's other. I got to say this is 100% true. There's people around the world are looking at us like, what is going on, dude? What is going on? A destabilized America is not good for the world. It is not good for the world. Go
I
watch The
mean,
Man
we're
High
not,
Castle, by the way.
this is, and as the years go on, it becomes less so. I mean, you know,
No, there's other countries that are going to take over. The history changes, no doubt.
yeah, well, no, I mean, America is an important part of the world but I mean, we're like the arbiter of all things is, just
that's
nationalist rhetoric about being superior to other people.
And then that's the problem. We leaned into that for so many decades that people started to really believe it, Tom. There's a book. There's a book called The Greatest Generation, this crazy book. And there's a whole generation that really believed about themselves, that they had no flaws. Which is crazy because that generation also thought women shouldn't have a credit card, which, I don't know. How do you feel about that? It's just like,
Yeah,
no flaws, but hey, because by the way, Leanne has a credit card and she does pretty good with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Maria, you got a credit card? I'm sure you can handle it, right? You know what to do with it. So it's like, hey, I don't know that they were perfect, and it turns out that they weren't. So
yeah, I mean,
you never look at yourself as not flawed. That I think part of the reason I'm good at communicating is because I know what I fail at. I know that, and I'm also willing to say I'm sorry. Like I made a mistake about Donna. She's an independent. Say you're sorry. You make a mistake, it's okay. Then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't admit your mistakes, then you're gonna have exactly what you just said. Is this feeling that you're like the smartest person in the room and you never are wrong, but you were wrong.
Oh no, what I said was, trying to prove that you deserve to be the one anointed the smartest person in the room. That just isn't how nobody wants to hear it anymore.
Yeah, and wouldn't you want someone who's smarter than you to do the other thing anyways? Like I don't know. I like actually just real quick to go back to the debate, right? So President Trump had said this thing. Former President Trump had said this thing about the clean water, right? He said we had the clean. Let me do my Trump real quick. You ready? We had the cleanest water ever. The best water. It was the best water. The best water. So he said that, right? And so CNN said that was a lie. However, so there was one category, right, that during the Trump administration in the Clean Water Standards Act, during that administration we had the best ratings as a country that have ever been recorded. And now the Clean Water Standards Act has only been in place since the mid 90s under President Clinton's administration. Okay, so you only have less than 20 years of data, less than 30 years of data, right? 1996 to 2024. So 28 years of data. And there was a year under President Trump where it's not every single clean standard. There's like 60 different components of that test. But on one of them, the best ever rating was during the year before COVID. So
that's called cherry picking, kids.
No, he did. It is cherry picking data. So, but I want to show you how they think. He said on the and I know we got to wrap up. He said at the thing that he had a staffer tell him right before he came out. He said a staffer told me right before. So there was some kid with a clipboard. It was like, "Hey, President Trump, we were #1 in saline percentage or whatever it was." I'm making up. And he was like, "Great," and then he ran with it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what to believe about what people say about him. But I mean, look, I get, it wasn't that shocking that he beat Clinton because, I mean, let's be honest, like Hillary Clinton represents no palpable change whatsoever, and is, on top of that, unpopular and a rather disgraceful human being. But like, so I get like the voting for even if it's terrifying change, voting for it, like voting the anti-establishment. But I mean, I just, not that I was ever on that train with him because it's, he's just a repugnant person. But when a guy is running around quoting, like, he's saying things directly out of Mein Kampf and then says, "Oh, I didn't get it there." Like, you wouldn't think of that on your own. Maybe your fascist little buddy, Steve Miller, what was his name? The little bald creep who deserves to be hit with a bat.
Yeah.
No, the other one.
Oh, the other guy. Yeah,
Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, yeah.
No,
Maybe Stephen Miller wrote it for you. But I mean, like, you didn't make that up on your own. Like, you didn't come up with, poisoning the blood of our nation. Like, that's not your original thought. So where'd you get it?
In that case, it wasn't Hitler's original thought either. He stole that too.
Well, probably, but I mean,
Yeah. So that's the thing. Those kind of things are stolen. I'm with you. I understand what you're saying.
I
So
just don't
listen, we got to
understand how you don't get off the train at that point. Like, how not, and that's a pretty terrible analogy now I think, but I don't get how you don't get off the ride with him at that point. Like, dude, this guy's running around like saying crazy stuff. And
Yeah, I don't think that people even know that, Tom. That's really the thing. Is there's not a consensus to educate the national electorate about, hey, what's being said and what's not. There really is a lack. And
I didn't
hey,
get it. There,
by the way, that national
just another
education
brilliant thing that
falls,
I came up with.
right. No, but the national education system that we purport as the greatest in the world turns out it's not.
Yeah, the best.
So,
It's funny when he does like he panics about stuff like the noise about, especially on Capitol Hill last week, like the noise about Project 2025 was pretty loud, and he just like had to put out a one on a stupid social network. He just had to like say, this Project 2025 thing, like I don't know what it's about, and they got some good ideas, but they got a lot of bad ideas, and I don't have anything to do with it. It's everybody that used to work for you.
although a bunch of those people he fired. So
Yeah, but he fires everybody.
he does. You're fired. You're fired. That's true. Hey, so wait, before we end, Tom, we have to continue the tradition, bro, of talking about something sweet at the end. Okay? So I got a new one for you. You ready for this? This is gonna be really hard. This is gonna really test your skills. What is your favorite candy bar?
I'll go Milky Way, I guess. Not a huge candy
Regular
person.
Milky Way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's Milky Way Midnight. I like the dark chocolate Milky Way. I'm a dark chocolate guy. What about the people in the chat? If Leanne and Maria are still up, what's your favorite candy bar? Because we have to end on something sweet. This is how Tom and I stay in love. Dark chocolate Kit Kat.
No, I mean I'm not sure that nobody has original thoughts.
Hey, Tom, she went with the all caps, bro. All caps.
I guess she wins. You cap this up.
Oh, the Bueno. Oh, the Bueno is good too, Maria. Oh, that's a tough one, man. All right, so there we go. We end on candy.
I don't know that nobody has any original thoughts, Maria, but
Hey, I have a question, Tom. Does a Reese's peanut butter cup count as a candy bar?
Sure.
There's a lot of controversy there. Some people say it shouldn't count.
That's like just trying to like you're trying to control the scope of the category so your favorite candy bar wins or something. Then
it's like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Right?
It's like,
is that classic? Is it? Is it?
It's like, what do they call it? What do they call it? Redistricting, when you do it.
Gerrymandering.
Yeah, they're trying to gerrymander the vote on the candy bars. Oh, Reese's don't count.
Reese's don't count. But by the way, everybody loves Reese's. Everybody loves Reese's. I've yet to meet a person, except for someone allergic to peanut butter, who doesn't like Reese's. And hey, I'm suspicious. Let me tell you, if there's one group of people I'm going to go after, it's people who are allergic to peanut butter. Right? That's going to be my group. That's going to be the group I target.
That's your hate group. Your hate group is going to be about people that are allergic to peanut butter.
People with peanut allergies. I'm against those people.
Yeah, Louis. I was just gonna say, Louis C.K. had a whole rap about.
Hey, watch us get a letter, Tom, from some people who suffer from peanut allergies.
Louis C.K. had a whole rap about. It's called. It was about. Of course, but maybe is what it's called. He's like, of course I believe this, but there's always this voice that says maybe. And one of the things that he listed it's a hilarious bit. But one of the things he listed was, of course, people with kids with peanut allergies need to be protected, and people need to label the food, and we have to have antidote or whatever ready for them all the time. Of course, we should protect those children, but maybe if we just forget about peanut allergies for a few years, there'll be no more peanut allergies.
No, Tom. Evolution through peanut allergies. Oh my goodness. Oh, natural selection by peanut. No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, I never heard that. That's funny.
Oh yeah, no, of course, but maybe. It is absolutely hysterical. whatever you may, I think similarly to most people on his private activities, but he is an absolutely brilliant stand-up comedian. Absolutely brilliant.
Hey, so over the next few weeks, we should cover maybe some of these local races, and like I know they're unopposed and stuff.
There
But maybe
aren't
we should.
any. There's
We got to
nothing to
break them
cover.
down, though, right? Should we hold them accountable, Tom?
For what?
Huh? For
Against
not?
what?
I don't know.
What are we comparing? There's nobody to compare them to. There's some primaries for I think they're open seats, but they're all I don't know. I didn't catch if there was any Republican primaries in the House. There was a couple in the Senate, I think.
Any local Worcester primaries?
No.
That we can
No.
No.
What's the primaries? What do we need primaries for?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going so well, I might as well just elect the same people.
Maybe I should run.
That's what we did in Worcester. Yeah, no.
John running.
I don't believe there's any Worcester primaries. Nope.
All right, so we'll talk about it. I know Manny and I are going to be talking about that stuff. You got to come back on and argue this stuff with Manny too. Manny's got some stuff he wants to talk to you about.
All right, I'm happy to. But yes, there in the House. There are no Worcester primaries. There's some around the state, but not in the Worcester districts. And in the Senate, there is. I don't believe any.
When there's no choice, you get the same.
I mean, there's some people I like, and they're like. I'm all right with nobody running against Eldridge. That's fine. We'll keep him.
Oh, Jamie Eldridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, Jamie Eldridge, great champion for criminal justice reform. One of the people who has pushed really, really hard at the Department of Corrections, and the phone thing. Actually, the phone thing is probably an issue. It might be an issue for Sheriff Lou 2 years from now when he has to defend his seat again.
Nobody will run against him.
Well, I mean, the person who ran against him last time was a Democrat, so.
Yeah, be a shellacked.
He did get smashed. It was smashing.
Yeah, it was smashing. It was.
No,
that's right. The Cronin.
Gets
what
like
is it?
70% of the vote, man. He does. He just crushes.
Yeah, I really get it. I don't get why, but I guess because nobody runs against him. Nobody of any.
Well, think about the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. There's the two guys before him. One dude, not great, and another guy killed himself because not great. So I mean, it's like tough.
The last guy's now a lobbyist. He was a lobbyist giving money to Chambers Super PAC to interfere in our elections.
But remember the big promise Lou was he was going to take the name of the sheriff off the car, and he did that. He followed through. So I mean, that's really the big thing. And then he has never hired a relative of a person. So he's been able to run on that.
There is in the Senate the district called the Massachusetts. The Worcester and Middlesex district, which is Cronin's district. There's a challenger there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got one competitive race.
And 27 races where you don't even have to show up.
Yeah. Well, we'll make those two come in and debate on the show. We'll just hammer them, rip them apart, and make them have to deal with the entire non-competitive structure. We're gonna go against them.
Not that I know a whole great deal about Cronin, but the guy running against him is Nicholas Pirro, and I have absolutely never heard of that man.
All right, well, let's get him on and let's take him apart. Nicholas Pirro. Sorry.
All right.
By the way, This Week in Worcester podcast is always looking for sponsors, so you can reach out at any time, and we will happily accept anybody who would like to sponsor us. By the way, can I do a plug, Tom? Can I plug something? Can I
plug away?
So my Fenway Faithful Facebook group, we got T-shirts selling right now for $25, cheap stuff, and then we're shipping them all out on August 1st. So it's not a Red Sox team apparel, it's just Fenway Faithful, the Facebook group. So if you want to support it, go ahead and buy a T-shirt, and then you can also come see Manny on Thursday. He's emceeing the Out to Lunch program on Thursday, and we will be there with a table selling Manny J Media T-shirts, which are only $20 if you buy them in cash.
Big smile. And I don't have a lot on my. I'm going to do some writing this week for change as of late.
Articles.
Yeah, because I've been running around doing stuff, media stuff, and that doesn't put print on the page. So that's what I'll be nowhere this week. I'll be holed up in my dungeon.
Excellent.
All right, we will try to do better next week. Thanks, Maria. Oh, and I noticed, by the way, real quick, halfway through the deal that we weren't going on Twitter, and I'm like, what happened there? Oh, we need to be premium to live stream now.
Oh, so then we're gonna
Wasn't
lose
like that 2
Sean
weeks
D.
ago.
That's
I
our
know.
big, what's one of our number one viewers.
What's his name?
Sean
Guy-
D.
No, the dude that owns Twitter there. That dope.
Elon.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Elon's screwing us.
Hey, but he may screw us, but Elon, we will happily accept your sponsorship of the This Week in Worcester podcast if you want to drop some of that billions of dollars on us. Guy's the richest guy in the world right now, so he could throw us like 50 grand, right? I'm cool with that. We put a big X right here.
I don't know that I am.
Put a big X right there. Big X.
Yeah, I don't.
No one calls it X, right?
Nobody on Earth. Nobody on Earth.
It's still Twitter.
Like,
It's great.
whatever. I don't want to get into it. Like, how do you take a thing with such a household name and you're like, I'm just going to change it to X? Are you telling me he earned all that money? Get out of here.
Someday
That's
Twitter's coming.
So somebody who would do something that cataclysmically stupid, no wonder why he gets so much public money that he was playing with to make his money.
He did pay the loan back, though.
Yeah, give me $20 million. I'll make money with it.
Me too.
You know?
I want $20 million right now. I will promise you I will make money with that. Give me that.
On that low income, that low interest government money. Yeah. Just hand me some money and I'll go all Pablo Escobar. I don't care. I'm really not doing that. I'm too old for that.
I wish I had fake dollars to go like this. I have $1. Wait, I have $1. Look. I have $1.
And with that, we will try to screw it up less next time. As John makes it rain with his $1.
Making it rain.
All right. We will we'll try and screw it up worse. Yeah, worse next time. No, we'll try to screw it up less next time. And John is being weird, and that's it. Everybody have